Hi, hello, and welcome to Cinema Express. My name is Venkat Srikar. Today we have with us editor, national award-winning editor, Mr. Praveen KL with us. நான் லைக் ரீசன் வந்து பிரின்ஸ் இப்போ ஒரு 2 நாள்ல திவாலிக்கு ரிலீஸ் ஆக போகுது. பட் நம்ம அதை விட நிறைய விஷயங்கள் இன்னும் பேசி தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு நான் ரொம்ப எக்ஸைட்டடா இருக்கேன். வணக்கம் சார், வணக்கம். எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
வணக்கம் வணக்கம் வணக்கம். ஐம் குட். நீங்க எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
சூப்பரா இருக்கேன் சார். I'm going to watch Prince at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. show. So kind of excited for that Diwali release. Sir, எனக்கு எப்பவுமே ஒரு விஷயம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு ரொம்ப லைக் ஐம் இன்ட்ரீக்ட். இது நான் கிரிட்டிசிசமா நான் வைக்க அது என்னோட இன்டென்ஷன் கிடையாது. பட் நம்ம ஃபிலிம்ஸ்ல எப்பவுமே ஒரு 2 டேஸ்க்கு முன்னாடி 1 டே ஒரு 3 டேஸ் முன்னாடி வரைக்கும் ஹோல் போஸ்ட் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் டீமே பயங்கர ஒரு ப்ரெஷர்ல இருப்பாங்க இல்லையா? லாக்கிங் தி எடிட், சவுண்ட் எல்லாமே கடந்த ரிலீஸ் ஆகுற வரைக்கும் அவ்வளவு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ். எனக்கு எப்பவுமே ஒரு விஷயம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு எனக்கு இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கா இருக்கும். ஏன் நம்ம கடைசி நேரத்து வரைக்கும் அந்த டெட்லைன் புஷ் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கோம்? வை டோன்ட் வி ஃபினிஷ் த ஒர்க் கொஞ்சம் முன்னாடியே? எல்லாம் ஏன் நடக்காது?
இல்ல நடக்காதுன்னு கிடையாது. சில படங்களுக்கு என்னன்னா we'll have some feedback from the audience. Maybe we would have had some shows to show it to people that we know, people who might appreciate or people who might have concerns about the film. See, நம்ம ஒரு மைண்ட் செட்ல ஒன்று பண்ணுவோம். அதுல இருந்து அதை தாண்டி someone would have a different perspective. Maybe this may not work அப்படின்ற ஒரு இது இருக்கும். அதுதான் நம்ம வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் காப்பின்னும். இப்போ ஒரு ப்ரிவியூ ஷோ போடும்போது வந்து people might have a constructive feedback. Sometimes people might have their own opinions actually first. Some out of those, if it's constructive towards the film itself, that's when we cater to it. That usually happens for big films.
Okay. So one of the reasons நான் இந்த கான்வர்சேஷன் உங்கள்கிட்ட பேசணுறதுக்கே ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டடா இருந்தது, நீங்க 15 இயர்ஸ் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ணியிருக்கீங்க இந்த வருஷம். சென்னை 28 ரிலீஸ் ஆகி 15 இயர்ஸ். லாஸ்ட் இயர் மாநாடு வாஸ் யுவர் 100th ஃபிலிம். உங்கள்கிட்ட இருந்து நான் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு ஆசைப்படுறேன். அப்போ இருக்கிற பிரவீன் கேலுக்கும் இப்போ இருக்கிற பிரவீன் கேலுக்கும் பயங்கரமா எவால்வ் ஆயிருப்பீங்க இல்லையா? ஆஸ் அ ஹியூமன் பீயிங் ஆகும், ஆஸ் அன் எடிட்டர் ஆகும். சரி, ஹவு கான்ஃபிடென்ட் ஆர் யூ நவ்? லைக் இப்போ do you feel the craft is less challenging now? எப்படி மாறி இருக்கீங்க ஒரு எடிட்டரா?
No, actually, to be upfront, I would say it has become more challenging now because you're catering to a different set of audience. Then way back in 2007, you're catering to the millennials, you're catering to the people who are watching shorts. You have to capture their attention span in 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, so what is lag, what is not working for them, or what would work for them? அப்படின்ற ஒரு ஸ்பேஸ் இருக்கு இல்லையா? தட் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஃபார் அஸ் டு ரியலைஸ். அண்ட் வி ஹவ் டு பி கான்ஸ்டன்ட்லி எவால்விங், ஜஸ்ட் லைக் ஹவ் அ டாக்டர் எவால்வ்ஸ், ஹவ் சயின்ஸ் இஸ் கெட்டிங் அப்டேட்டட் எவ்ரி அதர் டே. And doctors have to read. Same thing with editors also. So what was the response in the theater for this? நான் எடிட் ரூம்ல பார்க்கும்போது வந்து நான் நினைச்சது வந்து ஏன் தியேட்டர்ல ஒர்க் ஆகல அப்படின்ற ஒரு எவல்யூஷன் எனக்குள்ள வரலன்னா, then I will not be prolonging my career as well.
Okay. ஸோ இப்போ நீங்க சொன்னீங்க இல்லையா, லைக் ஷார்ட்ஸ் பாக்குற அந்த மில்லேனியல்ஸ்க்கு அவங்களுக்கு நம்ம கேட்டர் பண்றோம். அண்ட் கடந்த ஒரு 2 இயர்ஸ்ல பேண்டமிக் அண்ட் ஒன்ஸ் வி காட் ஹாபிச்சுவேட்டட் டு ஓடிடி, அட்டென்ஷன் ஸ்பேன் உண்மையிலேயே ரொம்ப குறைஞ்சிருக்கு. லைக் இப்போ நான் லேப்டாப்லயோ இல்ல டிவிலயோ நான் ஒரு படம் பாக்குறேன்னா ஒரு 5 minutes என்னால போன் நோண்டாம பாக்குறது எனக்கு ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. தியேட்டர் போனாதான் ஃபுல் அட்டென்ஷன் என்னால கொடுக்க முடியுது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி சுச்சுவேஷன்ல இருக்கும்போது வாட் ஹேஸ் சேஞ்ச்? லைக் இப்போ நீங்க பண்ற ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ்ல லைக் ஷார்ட் லென்த் குறைக்கலாமா, அந்த மாதிரி டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் இப்போ வந்துருச்சு எடிட் ரூம்குள்ள, இதுக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்ததை விட இப்போ அதிகமா?
இல்ல, இட்ஸ் ஷார்ட் லென்த்ன்றதோடங்க, it is whether we'll capture their attention in the first 10 to 15 minutes of a film, whether we are setting the tone of the film in the right space. The 10 to 15 minutes that we have, when we set up the tone of the film, the audience will start imbibing it. Then there'll be no, checking your mobiles or updating your Twitter status or, like whatever things that you usually do. Adu varadu. If you set the tone of the film the first 15 to 20 minutes, you get them hooked. After that, I think we are on a safer boat.
Okay. Sir,
and that is the concern that we all have as screenwriters, as directors, as editors. So we try to convey, okay, this is what the film is about, this is what you're supposed to watch, and this is what we're going to deliver. Or context, 15-20 minutes achieve pantana, I think that will be really great.
Sir, do you believe in online editing, and online editing எவ்வளவு important?
I do. I believe online edit facilitates a lot of things for the directors and the cameramen, because a lot of big films that I'm working on right now, they've been shot in different locations, different like let's assume a foreign location. So there'll be no way that we can go back and get those shots done as a patchwork. So online edit facilitates that part wherein whatever we missed on the day of shoot, we could probably go back and catch it on the day after or the next day, whenever we get that time. And also, it sets a precedent of the tone of the scene. Oh, it's probably difficult. Some editors have told me that like when they shoot, high frame rate shots, they will not able to capture. But I believe in capturing that during the breaks and trying to get those things in order, so that the director knows which way the scene is heading, and even the DOP. It has always worked in my favor, and also online edit. I strongly believe that it reduces the number of days of shoot a lot of times, because you don't have to go back and scramble and reshoot what you have not done.
Yeah. Patch பண்றதே கம்ப்ளீட்டா அவாய்ட் பண்ணிக்கலாம் வச்சு.
Eliminate. Although it's only a reference point, the online edit is always a reference point for editors. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that the scene is going to be conveyed in that way, but a lot of times it helps in structuring the flow of the scene.
ஓகே. ஸோ நான் ரீசெண்டாக மிஸ்டர் ஸ்ரீகர் பிரசாத் கிட்ட பேசும்போது அவர் கொஞ்சம் ஹி வெண்ட் பேக் ஆன் தட் மெமரி லேன்ல போயிட்டு அந்த காலத்துல எப்படி மூவலா இருக்கும்போது டைரக்டரும் அவரும் உட்காந்துட்டு அந்த குட்டி ஸ்கிரீன்ல பார்த்துட்டு அந்த ரீல வந்து லெக் வச்சு வெட்டு இப்போ வெட்டுன்னு சொன்னா அதை டக்குன்னு கட் பண்ணி ரீல் வெளில எடுக்கிறது, நீங்க அதெல்லாம் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் பண்ணிருக்கீங்களா?
As two of my uncles were editors who edited on Steenbeck and Moviola. I've seen it as a child. In fact, I used to go do part time as more fun. It wasn't like learning the craft. So my uncles used to pay me like pocket money. சும்மா நீ வீட்டில் சும்மா தானே இருக்க, வந்தனா ஒரு ₹5 தரேன் உனக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சும்மா அப்படி கற்றுக்கிட்டதாங்க தவிர it was never a career choice for me. But yes, I've seen that process happen in front of my eyes.
சூப்பர். சார் இப்போ வந்து ஒரு ஒரு குற்றச்சாட்டு என்னன்னா, நம்ம நிறைய கேட்டுட்டு இருப்போம். அது எவ்வளவு உண்மைன்னு என்னன்னு தெரியாது. ஃபிலிம் சர்க்கிள்ஸ்ல, ஜர்னலிசம்ல we keep hearing that this film has been overshot. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இந்த ஹோல் ஃபிலிம் வாஸ் லைக் 4 hours இருந்தது, 4.5 hours இருந்தது. அதை கட் பண்ணி லைக் தே ஹேட் டு லெட் கோ ஆஃப் ஹியூஜ் சங்க்ஸ் ஆன் தி எடிட்டிங் டேபிள். அண்ட் திஸ் ஹேஸ் பீன் ஃபெசிலிட்டேட்டட் பை டிஜிட்டல் எரா. ஏன்னா அந்த காலத்துல ஐ திங்க் நந்தினி ரெட்டியர் ஒரு ஃபில்ம் மேக்கர் இருக்காங்க தெலுங்குல, அலா முதலேந்தி. அவங்க வந்து அவங்களோட ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஃபிலிம் அலா முதலேந்தி எடுக்கும்போது தட் ஃபில்ம் வாஸ் ஷாட் ஆன் சச் அ ஷூ ஸ்ட்ரிங் பட்ஜெட் தட் கடைசி ரீல் வந்து அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு ரீல் தான் இருந்ததா, லைக் தட் கேன் ஒரு கேன் தான் இருக்கு. ஸோ கடைசி டைலாக் தட் ஷார்ட் வாஸ் ஒரு நானியை. அண்ட் அந்த அவர் சொன்ன டைலாக் முடிஞ்சது, அந்த கேன் ரீல் வந்து சுப்பன் முடிஞ்சிச்சுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ கேன் இருக்கும்போது அவ்வளோ டிசிப்ளின்டா இருந்தாங்க. பட் once we have the liberty of shooting on digital, the footage keeps piling up அப்படியோன்னு ஒரு குற்றச்சாட்டு இருக்கு. அண்ட் நீங்க ரெண்டுமே நீங்க பார்த்திருக்கீங்க, ரீல் அண்ட் ஐ மீன் லைக் ஃபில்ம் இருக்கும்போது நீங்க இருக்கீங்க. யா, அந்த டிரான்சிஷன்ல யூ ஹேவ் பீன் அ பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட் இல்லையா? ஸோ அது நீங்க எப்படி சார் பாக்குறீங்க இந்த ஹோல் டிஸ்கோர்ஸ்?
See, the ratio of film, we call it a shooting ratio and edit ratio. So earlier on, it used to be 5:1 max for a big budget film. As in, you can shoot 5 minutes, which will be converted to 1 minute of the final product. Okay. Right now, I've worked on films that have been shot to 65:1, 40:1, 50:1. Yeah. So it's
Wow.
there. It's there. It's there. But I wouldn't say it is a deterrent. I would say, okay, lack எப்படின்னா சில டைம் as filmmakers, for their creativity and lack of options to shoot in locations and all that, the coverage would be more. See, end of the day, we have to come back. I'll come back to where it should have been started. But end of the day, the footage being heavy is a குற்றச்சாட்டுன்றத விட it's a convenience for filmmakers அப்படின்ற ஒரு தாக்கம் தான் எனக்கு. Okay.
Mm.
But if they had done it on the paper itself, if they had logged it the script level itself and not gone, to shoot stage and then editல பார்த்துக்கலாம், post productionல பார்த்துக்கலாம் அப்படின்றது வந்து, in a way it's a lazy filmmaking for certain sequences. But if you let's suppose we're doing an epic war sequence or an action sequence, probably as filmmakers they want the creative freedom to be a little more outward, and they want to come back and decide at the post production stage. Those are acceptable. But for drama, for scenes that have dialogues, or that scenes have preset, emotions, I don't think you need those options. That's what I strongly feel as a editor.
Super, sir. Once again, I go back to Srikar Prasad, Mr. Srikar Prasad. அவர் திருப்பி அவர் சொல்றது வந்து ஃபில்ம் மேக்கர் கூட the equation that he shares. இப்போ ரஷஸ் பார்க்கும்போது இது ஓவர் பவர் ஆகுது, இல்ல இது கம்மியா இருக்கு, அது சொல்றது லைக் நீங்க do you share that relationship with the filmmaker that ஒரு ஃபிலிம் ப்ரொடக்ஷன்ல இருக்கும் போதே when you are acting as an objective viewer, நீங்க அப்போவே அவங்களுக்கு ஃபீட்பேக் கொடுக்கிறது அதெல்லாம் நடக்குமா?
Of course, of course, of course. See, there were films where we have sat down at a script reading level, and we have taken out songs or unnecessary things that we know for sure it will be removed from the edit table at the final point. That has always happened for all of my films, and I'm very particular because I want to read the script or get a narration. And once the narration is over, before these guys go for shoot, we sit down and discuss things that may not be there in the final product. So there were a
Oh,
lot of films that
really?
we have ironed out. We've taken out songs. We've taken out some. Yeah. That is usually the exercise. There's always a back and forth. The director might have his own point of view. We as editors, we have our own point of view and say this may not gel here. The emotion may not be necessary. That vision. I think as editors, we think in that sense. So that there are a lot of films that we've worked on. And coming back to saving the number of shoot days also, let's suppose we are trimming down a song which is about 3 days. If it's a small film, we are cutting down on a budget of about 10 to 12 lakhs at least. So there is again,
Wow.
it goes back to saving the producer's money and also the artist's energy.
Sir, what do you, I know it's a very hard question, it's hard to define it. How do you define a well edited scene?
The core construct of the scene must be closely related to the emotion of what it is trying to convey. So if it's going to convey what it is supposed to, let's suppose a father lost his daughter and he's desperate. So my rhythm or the pacing of the scene should be aligned to that emotion only, not to anyone else.
Right.
Or
Right.
whoever is part of that scene. And the mother and whoever the father is trying to convey that emotion, or to the mother, for an example. If that aligns between these three guys, I think that's fine.
Okay.
இப்போ சில scenes தான் நான் பார்ப்பேன். I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. There'll be unnecessary extensions of the scene itself.
Yeah.
So, which I felt as an audience when you watch it in the theater. So you're trying to give them information only. That information is conveyed. Move on. Don't get stuck on it just because you shot it.
Right. You won't believe, you really won't believe, Mr. Srikar Prasad recent our interviewல இதே கேள்வி கேட்டப்போ அவர் இதே பதில் சொன்னாரு. He said that இப்போ ஒரு சீன் வந்து ஒரு இடத்துல முடிஞ்சிருச்சுன்னா அங்க கட் பண்ணிடணும். அந்த சீனோட பர்பஸ் இங்க கட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா அது தாண்டி கூட அந்த சீன் போகுதுன்னா தட் இஸ் பேட் எடிட்டிங். எங்க வரைக்கும் இருக்கணும் அதான் சொல்லியிருந்தாரு அவர். You gave the exact same answer.
No, he is my idol. I've always followed his work back from, I Egre Paurama days. I don't know whether you've seen that film.
இல்ல, unfortunately, no. Okay. Wow. சார், இப்போ சினிமாட்டோகிராஃபிக்னு பார்த்தா சில ரூல்ஸ் இருக்கு. லைக் அட்லீஸ்ட் தியரட்டிக்கலா நம்ம பார்க்கும்போது லோ ஆங்கிள்னா அந்த கேரக்டர் வந்து டாமினன்ட், ஒரு க்ளோஸ் அப்னா அந்த கேரக்டர் பவர்ஃபுல், அந்த சீன்ல அந்த கேரக்டரோட இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் காட்டுறோம். டாப் ஆங்கிள் வந்து சின்னதா ஒரு கேரக்டர் காமிச்சா அந்த கேரக்டர் வந்து அவ்வளவா பவர் இல்ல, அந்த சீன்ல வீக்கான கேரக்டர், அந்த மாதிரி சில ரூல்ஸ் இருக்கு. அது இது எல்லாமே வந்து நம்மளால விஷுவலா பார்க்க முடியும். எடிட்டிங்க்கு இந்த மாதிரி தியரிட்டிக்கல் ரூல்ஸ் ஏதாவது இருக்கா உங்க 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 ஸ்கூல்ல?
இல்ல இருக்கு. But it has always been evolving. See, back when off, they said you have to establish a geography with a wide shot, come back to the mid, then go back to the close. Okay, but filmmaking is an evolving process. So you get inspired from so many filmmakers around the world, and it's not just one preset formula that you do. Okay, it depends on the mood of the scene and what you're trying to convey for that part of the story. So என்ன பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ரூல்ஸா அப்படின்னா it changes, it evolves from scene to scene, or I would say it evolves from the film's mood or the script's mood. Let's suppose for a big hero film, I can hold him as for an introduction scene for a 1 minute, because I know the target audience would want that to happen. But for a small hero, I will not be able to do it because that is not the way it's supposed to be. So you just introduction, give him an intro wherein it will subtle or whatever the scene is required. But for a mass hero, you need that RR to go, you need people to clap, you need people to enjoy the heroism, or the fans to enjoy their hero for a little bit. So it changes from a film to film is what I concur.
ஓகே. இப்போ லெட்ஸ் டாக் அபவுட் டிஃபரெண்ட் ஜான்ரஸ். இப்போ நமக்கு த மோஸ்ட் செலிப்ரேட்டட் இந்தியன் ஜான்ரா வந்து மசாலா ஜான்ரா, த லார்ஜர் தென் லைஃப் ஜான்ரா, அண்ட் யூ ஹேவ் டன் plenty of films in that genre. Maharshi, Bhairava, on those lines. Mangata, for that instance. And then there are these contained kutti little films, like say Aranyakandam or Kavya Talaivan. It's not a small film, but the story, it's a very intimate story. ஒரு ஸ்டோரி இத பொறுத்து உங்களோட கிராஃப்ட் எப்படி சார் மாறும்? யுவர் டார்கெட் ஆடியன்ஸ் இப்போ சொன்னீங்க இல்லையா?
I'm glad you asked me that question, because see, for me, it is more about storytelling than the massy elements or whatever. Initially, when I started off, yes, I was leaning towards commercial cinema. I had a lot of interpretations of how I could deliver a film that has already been released. I used to go back and check. I could have done this. That was my internal thought process. But as we come into the industry itself, there are certain rules that you need to follow. That is what I understood as an editor. But on top of the rules is how we change, how we present whatever they did, or the shots or the scene itself. That constantly evolved in me. I think Mangata kind of gave me a big perspective because it was a big film for the entire team. It was a big hero film, and we wanted to, and it was one of the landmark films of Adit sir also, in terms of I think 50th film. அதை தாண்டி நம்ம ஒன்று டெலிவரி ஒரு ப்ரெஷர் ஒன்று இருக்கும்ல. ஸோ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் இன் டர்ம்ஸ் ஆஃப் மேக்கிங் ஹிம் likable first and also presenting him differently. So the thought process was always in our head, and this will be there for any big hero films, any time that we edit. Like in the next 40-50 years,
Right.
mass commercial hero films will always be that. Okay, the presentability or how we present it.
Yeah.
Okay, but when it comes to small films, there's a lot more likability. There's a lot more relatability, a lot more grounded, I would say, in terms of characterization, in terms of um, uh, the emotions. So
Yeah.
all this is also has also paved the way. I've changed our role as an editor. And sometimes, yes, I agree that I take, if my strong point I personally feel is, if the emotion is not working, the scene will not work for anyone, whether it's a fan, whether it's a regular audience, or whether it's a critic, or whether it's the technician itself. So I always stick to that particular rule. அது ஒர்க் ஆகலைங்க, எனக்கு புரியுது. சென்னையை தாண்டி எத்தனை பேருக்கு புரியும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு கேள்வி எனக்கு எப்பயுமே வரும். ஃபார் அன் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இப்போ இன் பிரியாணி we had this dubstep thing, which was the in thing at that point of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question to Venkat Prabhu was, okay, fine, I understand, you understand, we look at Twitter, Facebook, or whatever, and we take that forward. We're talking about 6, 7 years ago.
2014
And back then,
February.
yeah. So back then, down south, your tier 2, tier 3 cities, I don't know if they had so much of Twitter or your Facebook influence, or rather the majority of them. So
Yeah.
அவங்களுக்கு புரியாதுங்க is my argument. So we have to strongly make sure that the director have to put in a dialogue what the dubstep is. நீங்க திரும்பி போய்
Exposition.
பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அதுல
Yeah.
இருக்கும்.
Yeah.
Exposition, yes, yes. So that needs to be conveyed to your audience across all three tiers. Oh, that is what we usually fight for.
And I want to know, இப்போ நீங்க ஒரு என்னோட முன்னாடி இருக்கிற கொஸ்டினுக்கு நான் இது ஒரு எக்ஸ்டென்ஷனா பாக்குறேன். இப்போ நீங்க ஒரு பெரிய படம் பண்றீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க சார். சே அகைன் மஹர்ஷி ஆர் பைரவா ஆர் கபாலி ஆர் மாநாடு which gives you tremendous scope for editing. But when you are doing this say simple films, I don't want to take names, but you take say or simple films like say or vadakariyo illa something on those lines, or normal simple film, those small medium films. அந்த மாதிரி filmsல what is that creative what drives you creatively when you are doing simple films? நான் சிம்பிள்ன்றது ஒரு நெகட்டிவா சொல்லல.
No, I understood your point of view. See, I'll tell you an example. When I was doing Kabali, I was also parallelly doing a film called Kida in Karnataka.
That wonderful film. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, the angle was at that point of time. I'll tell you the context of it first, then I'll go back and. So a lot of people were thinking I will only do small film. I mean, big films.
Bigger
And
films
I'm
after that.
unapproachable. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm unapproachable. So, yes, in terms of an editor, see, I'm always friendly with all my assistant directors, and I keep asking them if they have anything to bounce. Even if they don't have to work with me, I could just help them out as being a bridge. Oh, that's the discussion usually when we go out for tea breaks or coffee breaks and see what they are up to, whether they can take it forward to the next level, and whatever that I could do, pitch it. அப்படி வந்தது தான் அந்த கிடாயின் கருணை மனு. And when I heard the script, I called up the executive producers back then. It was produced by Heroes, Riddhi. That's what I said, you fix the salary. I just want to be part of this film because it was so grounded. It was so
Yeah.
oh,
Very
no,
new
it
in
is very
Tamil.
rare.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very rare that you get that high when you are listening to a script. ஸோ அப்படிதான் பண்ணுவோம் தவிர ஸ்மால் ஃபில்மா பெரிய ஃபில்மா அப்படின்ற கான்செப்டே அப்படின்ற ஒரு இது எனக்கு எப்பவுமே இல்லை.
நான் ஸ்மால் ஃபில்ம்னு சொல்லல சார். நான் ஸ்மால் ஃபில்ம் அப்படி சொல்லல. இப்போ ஸ்டோரி டெல்லிங் பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ்ல நம்ம பார்த்தோம்னா சம்திங் லைக் மாநாடு gives you a lot to play with. லைக் அரண்ய காண்டம், that narratives அது அந்த கிரியேட்டிவா there is a rush to do something new. It's giving you a great playground இல்லையா? இப்போ நான் சொல்றது இந்த சிம்பிள் ஒரு 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 ஸ்டோரி, அந்த சிம்பிளிசிட்டி அப்படிதான் நான் சொல்றேன். அது ஸ்மால் ஃபில்ம் அப்படி நான் சொல்லல.
இல்ல அப்படி கிடையாது. நவ் ஐ காட் யுவர் பாயிண்ட். அது சிம்பிள் ஃபில்ம்ன்றதை விட see right back then I'll go back and praise Durai sir. We already worked on a film together, and then Sarunarajan master, he's a cousin of Venkat Prabhu, so we all wanted to do a film together. Jay is also a good friend, so we wanted to do this film together. And அதுல என்னென்ன இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ண முடியும் as a friend, what I could tell him was like, let's do this video song wherein it is a game kind of thing. These are all attractions for the audience at that point of time. அப்படிதான். So it's more like a pat on the shoulder for a friend who has stood with you for a long time.
Okay. And so இப்போ காமெடி இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க சார். நீங்க காமெடி ஒன் ஆஃப் கலகலப்பு நீங்க தான் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. தில்லுமுல்லு 2013 வருஷம் நீங்க பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. ஸோ யூ நாட் நியூ டு காமெடி. பட் காமெடின்றது அதோட மேஜிக்கே வந்து இட் ரிமைன்ஸ் இன் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் நம்ம கேட்டு ஒரு ஜோக்கோ இல்ல ஒரு கவுண்டரோ இல்ல ஒரு ஸ்லாப்ஸ்டிக் ஆக்ஷனோ நம்ம ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் ஒன்று பார்த்து நம்ம சிரிக்கிறது அதோட அதோட பியூர் ரெஸ்பான்ஸ் இல்லையா? பட் நீங்க ஆஸ் அன் எடிட்டரா அது நீங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டிராஃப்ட், செகண்ட் டிராஃப்ட், படம் ரிலீஸ் ஆகுறது வரைக்கும் ஒரு 50 தடவை 100 தடவை பார்த்தா அது எப்படிதான் நீங்க சரி இந்த ஜோக் ஒர்க் ஆகுது இல்ல இந்த ஜோக் ஒர்க் ஆகலான்னு சொல்லி by the end how do you retain that objectivity?
I think your first instinct towards any particular scene stays with you all the way till the end, whether it's good or bad. Okay, so like you said, as we evolve, as we keep on watching it, we get feedback. Dubbing la enjoy பண்ணாங்க, the artists enjoyed it, மத்தவங்க enjoy பண்ணாங்க. But I believe in the first instinct that when you first time you see it, it works. Okay. And there have been instances wherein even for Prince also, wherein we thought certain portions would work lovely, first time பார்க்கும்போது. And then when we had a show like a week ago, then we had to go back and see whether we could retain it, or not to 100% of what we thought. So we had to go back and trim it down, because certain things we felt are good in the edit room, but we thought it doesn't click with the audience. It's more like an audience feedback also. Uh, for as far as I'm concerned, the instinct factor plays quite a bit. But anything on top of it, if there's a feedback, yes, we'll cater to it.
Okay. And is there a specific pace or rules that you follow for comedies? Because comedy is a lot about reaction, right? And the timing is
Yes,
sacrosanct.
yes,
So
yes,
அதை பத்தி
yes.
கொஞ்சம் elaborate பண்ணுங்களா?
Any comedy immediately, we say punch, or a punch on the couple, there
Yeah.
should be a breathing space. Okay, if you don't give the breathing space for the audience to react and for them to enjoy and give out a loud laughter, okay, that punch itself is gone. That is something that I've learned from Chennai 28 itself, fortunately.
Okay. Okay.
Every time we do that, we cater to that space. It's okay even if we think it's a lag. அங்க போகும்போது வந்து தியேட்ரிக்கல் ஆடிட்டோரியம்ல ஒரு ரெஸ்பான்ஸ்க்கு வந்து அந்த ஸ்பேசிங் கொடுத்தே ஆகணும் அப்படின்றது இட்ஸ் அன் இன்செட் ரூல். தட்ஸ் வாட் ஐ டெல் மை அசிஸ்டன்ட்ஸ் ஆல்சோ. டக்குன்னு எடிட் பண்ண வேண்டாம், நடுவில் நான் கொஞ்சம் ஸ்பேசிங் கொடுத்துக்கலாம். தேர் குட் பி அ சவுண்ட் எஃபெக்ட், தேர் குட் பி அ மியூசிக் தட் டேக்ஸ் ஓவர். ஸோ அந்த ஸ்பேஸ் கொடுத்தாதான் காமெடி வில் ஃப்ளரிஷ். ஐ ஆல்வேஸ் பீன் மெயின்டைனிங் தட். ஹோப்ஃபுல்லி இட் வில் கண்டினியூ.
Okay, super. So let's now come to Prince. What made you say yes to the film?
Sivakarthikeyan.
Okay. What was your
I was a big fan of I was a big
Jatiratnalu?
fan of Anudeep's Jatiratnalu, obviously, because the simple, naive comedy worked for me, and it was just so refreshing to watch. Okay, I kind of understood. I mean, I speak Telugu. My mother tongue is Telugu.
Yeah.
Uh, so so I know the Telangana dialect, the way he used the words to convey certain emotions, all that, it really worked for me. And Sivakarthikeyan said, we've always been talking about working together for a long time, but nothing materialized. And fortunately, this came along. And his biggest space is comedy. We've all grown up and seen him, how good he is in his comic time. And Anudeep coming on board, all that set happened together.
Okay. I know it's a very, very tricky thing to talk to an editor before the release of a release of a film. So it's a very difficult area for me to navigate through. I'm gonna try my best. What was your very first reaction when you read or got a narration of Prince?
So I was in Hyderabad and I went to Anudeep's apartment, and I should tell you a little bit more about Anudeep, but I will tell you that later. So we sat down for a narration. He gave me a narration for an hour and a half, and I had to tell him to stop because I was tearing from my laughter. And I was holding my tummy like this. It was that hilarious when he narrated. So that was that. And coming back to Anudeep himself, he's a very simple man. He won't even wear sandals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he cook. He eats only cooked food for once in a day.
Wow. Yeah.
So he was very different as a person. I've never seen someone like that. And that itself was like, okay, where's this guy coming from? Which planet is he from? Kind of thing. So finally, when we gelled together, and I kind of see, I went in with an expectation. I know Jatratnal was a huge hit and all that, but I was very curious to know where he's going to play Sivakarthikeyan, sir.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
it's a bilingual, it's a big film, and it was a very simple plot that he chose. So how will that translate? And I'm sure a lot of us have seen movies. There were references to, at some point, Anudeep told me that he got this inspiration from Goa, the movie itself. Goa
Wow.
has this thing about this uh, this
Yeah, yeah.
three guys
Inter
trying to
country.
get
Yeah, that love
to
story. Yeah.
yes, a foreign girl. No, that's where he
Yeah.
got inspired, and that thing all happened. But for me, I was very curious how how he would take reverse film to the Telugu audience itself. Because the big hero is Tamil Nadu. That there is Tamil classic. I think he's delivered superbly well.
In the age of social media, when whatever the responses about a film are coming directly to you on Twitter, you're quite active on Twitter. What do you think is valid criticism for editing? Because we generally try to link the length of a film with the editing, right? Or the fast pacing of a film with the editing. When a film is short and it's quick, they call it a well-edited film. When the film takes its time to, when it's a slow burner, or when it takes its time to get into the zone, they call it a badly edited film. But it's all of it is due to the screenplay. It's the screenplay that dictates the pace of a film, right? What do you think is valid criticism for editing?
See, nothing against the critics or the reviewers, but I honestly feel they need to have a little more understanding of how the pacing or the rhythm is constructed, because it is not the editor who decides the length of the film. It is a
Yeah,
collective effort from several different departments. Obviously, the director is there, and also a lot of other factors will also decide, especially when it comes to big films. Okay. Uh, the pacing, yes, the editor is responsible, but the length, no, it's a collective thing. What decides is several factors today. Well, it could be the business angle. So if I'll tell you an example. So if it's going to be a big film, usually I tell my directors or the team that let's not stretch it beyond a certain length, because let's take a big heroes film. Obviously, the first 3 days we're going to have like a 6 to 7 shows in a regular single screen. Okay, so if it's going to be a 3 hour film, that means the number of shows will get cut down by one or two, and it's going to affect
yeah,
the
yeah,
collection point of view.
yeah.
And see, a 3 hour film means that you can only schedule another show, your interval and your cleaning process later. You need to have 3.5 hours to 3 hour 45 minutes. So, which in wherein end of the day you're losing out on one show, which is going to
Yeah.
come back to the collection point of view. So usually, no matter what, I tell my directors, let's unless the story demands it. See, Maharshi, we clocked it at 257.
Yeah.
Although it was Mahesh Babu's film, who's one of the biggest superstars in Telugu, we still had our doubts whether the last 20 minutes will take off.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the strong belief for us was the emotional angle, wherein he talks to the farmer and he picks up that farming angle thing. That was the emotional angle, and that was we bargained on. He's
Yeah.
coming back to the root of it. So certain films might work. Lagan would work, or Dhoni would work, or uh, any other
Something like
film that has
Ponniyin
recent.
Selvan for matter, very recently.
Ponniyin Selvan, for an example, it would work.
Mm.
But it is always a cat on the wall kind of thing. So unless and until you get to know when it reaches the audience, uh, we'll always have the inhibitions. There are films that I thought may not work at such a length, which worked. So we generally tend to try and put it down to between 220 to 230.
Mm.
Because beyond that,
Mm.
I personally feel the audience, the attention span of the audience, rather, is going to
Mm.
come down drastically.
Okay. So now we have 2 days to go for Prince. I would like to know, I'm just curious to know, did Prince challenge you in any way? Like by did you have to do something new that you hadn't done so far? Did you get to learn something new from the film? What is the takeaway from Prince?
Yes, yes. See, humor is one part that we have seen, but Anudeep's humor is loaded with a lot of sarcasm and a lot of philosophy beyond it. Okay,
Mm.
there are certain dialogues which I can't say right now because it's
Yeah.
going to ruin the theater experience. But every dialogue has a lot of meaning in it, although it is laced with humor. And I think Anudeep believes in uh, telling people his message through humor only.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and he is a well-read man, and he's given me books to read, and that was very inspiring when I knew about him. So that thing comes up. So the takeaway from Prince for me would be, or for any audience that are going to watch, is beyond the humor layer, if they can construct the philosophy of what he's trying to convey. He's taken the recent incident of Ukraine and Russian war also. The
Wow.
context is what I'm trying to say, but in the movie that you see, it affects you deeply.
Wow.
So if you can look into that angle, I think that should really take off for a lot of people.
Wow. In fact, one of my favorite things about Jati Ratnalu is the under. I don't know if that film is supposed to be read like that, but I like the very fact that in Jati Ratnalu, the three guys they go back to their own hometown and they live a very good life. Although they aspire for a great life, they realize that what they already had was a pretty good thing. So I really like that
Exactly.
aspect in Jati Ratnalu, and
No,
I'm
that's
I'm
that's the best part of Anudeep. He taps into your inner emotion. He tells you, okay, this is what you've been striving for, but look, guys, hey, okay, this is what you are.
Yeah. Sir, as we near the end of the conversation, I'm going to name a few films from your filmography, and I want to learn your takeaway from those films or your experiences or one thing that you try to do new in that film. Okay. The
Sure.
first one has to be Chennai 28. We'll start with that because that's where it all began.
It's all close to all of our heart. It was a launch pad for most of us. So we were trying to be new, we were trying to be cheeky, we were trying to establish our pattern of work. And obviously, see, we were so naive, we didn't care about the result of, as in whether it was going to be a hit or flop. We enjoyed the process of making the film, and mm, the film being a hit, or the film being a cult right, until now, is only a
Hmm.
bonus. But rather, we did it together as friends. ஒருத்தர் ஒருத்தரை கலாச்சிக்கிட்டு இந்த டைலாக் நல்லா இல்லை, இந்த மாதிரி
Uh,
எடுத்துடக்கூடாது, இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணிக்கலாம், அந்த மாதிரி தான் பண்ண படம். Lot of memories.
Super. Aranyakandam.
Arnegandam was the second film that I heard as a narration, and it had a lot more depth in it. It had a lot more uh, cuss words in it. It had a lot more coarse language
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
And it was my fault that I couldn't understand in the narration at that point of time, not Kumar Raja's. I felt scared whether the audience would be able to understand this film at that point of time. We were talking about 2007 8. Okay,
Hmm.
and I wasn't sure if the audience were ready for it, but Kumar was super confident. And more than Kumar, I think Charan Anna was super confident. And
Hmm.
that's how the film got made in 2009. And a lot
Wow.
of memories with Arne Gandam also, because in terms of edit, we spent a lot of time in post production. There was a lot of back and forth, which is all for the good. Uh, when I look back at it,
Yeah. Kavya Talaivan.
poetic wasn't the balance most hardworking effort. I'm a little sad that it didn't work uh, because he was very pure when he was making that film.
Madras.
Madras, lovely film, very emotional. Ranjit's best, as in to connect to the roots of our culture, the Tamil culture rather. So it was, it had so many emotions, it had so many political things that I got to learn. I got
Oh,
to understood the
really? Okay.
North Madras culture. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I think the film got released on September 29th, if I'm not wrong. 4 days before we took off, and
Political
people who
turmoil
watched it,
in
I was
Chennai,
away
Tamil Nadu. Yeah.
in the northern Madras circuit.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of
Hmm.
hidden messages, which I as
Hmm.
an editor didn't realize it. But after people
Hmm.
watched the film, a lot of people have came and told me that this is what it is about, and I think I didn't understand it when I was editing it. I was looking at the film as the film itself. There are a lot of
Hmm.
messages that Ranjit actually planted in it, and it came out very well. I mean, imagine someone like Vamshi Padapalli, who
Hmm.
I'm working with right now. saw that film in Hyderabad because I we had a show in Hyderabad in Prasad's. He came and watched the film, and that's when he got in touch with me and said, "I love the film. Can you work on my next film?" So
Tola.
a lot of repercussions happened after. Yeah, Tola was my first film with him. So yes, I
Wow.
hold it very dearly to my heart.
Okay. Orchid Karnai Man.
One of the simplest and most enjoyable films that I've heard a narration and how it was translated also. Again, very rooted in the southern part of Tamil Nadu, and how people are, how they are beyond their space, as in they don't worry about anything except for their day-to-day living and all that. That's how it is constructed, and I love Suresh's writing also. He's that the director Suresh. He's still that. He's done a couple of films after that. I hope he really succeeds.
The next film I'm going to name, it's a very underrated film. I really wish more people watch this film because it's such a beautiful, funny film. Malaysia to Amnesia.
Yes, very slapstick, very.
Love that film. I
Uh,
love that film.
when we heard the line of it itself, it was very quite funny. And a couple of other guys that I've worked with, where also had a similar line, wherein because it all stemmed from that flight disappearing, in Malaysia.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I've heard like 3 or 4 versions of scripts that stemmed from that disappearance, and this
Huh.
was one. And uh, I think it also was done a time where people were so down with COVID and people wanted to have humor, just enjoy themselves. It
Yeah.
was Radhamohan sir being himself. We know about his comic timing and the silliness of it. How நம்ம எப்படி இருப்போமோ நேச்சுரலா அதை வந்து ப்ரெசென்டபிளா கொடுக்கறது வந்து சூப்பரா பண்ணியிருந்தாங்க. ஸோ யா ஐ என்ஜாய்ட் இட்.
Okay. So Prince is releasing in a few hours. By the time this interview goes up, Prince will be releasing in a couple of hours. What is your headspace like?
I'm excited. I'm very excited. It's a festival film. It is a. It is about a small group, which is. It is not even in the map of India. Actually, it is an imaginative town where people are just being Supandis. I'm sure you know about Supandi,
Yeah, yeah,
Twinkle,
yeah, yeah,
Supandi.
yeah,
A naive group of people who only worry about themselves and their culture, their part of the town. And Satyaraj sir's conversations with Sivakarthikeyan sir in the film is the key highlight of the film. And that is going to bring in a lot of laughters. Uh, I, I, see, in Telugu we say పొట్ట పగిలిపోయింది or rather
పొట్ట
వైరు
చెక్కేలా
కులింగి
నవ్వడం.
సిరిచే. వైరు కులింగి సిరిచే. So that's how it's going to
Ah,
be is what I believe.
okay. Sir, superb. Thank you very much for this time. All the very best for Prince. You have Varisi coming up. You have Hara Hara Viramalu coming up. So looks great. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for this time. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ram. Thank you.